Hey everyone, Chris here for Thomann Guitars and Basses. I have the absolute honor of having Scott and Tim from POLYPHIA, obviously, here. So nice to have you guys here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Hello.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It's I highly appreciate you being here right after your flights, flying whatever.
But of course.
All jet lagged and everything. It's it's tough.
It's like slightly being in a dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're just like half awake somewhere new that you've never been to, and it's like
floating.
Are you real?
Yeah. Well,
that's a good way to put it. You're just cruising on the altitude of, here we are, baby.
Yeah.
Let's
exactly.
Go with
yeah.
the flow.
Awesome.
It feels good though.
You guys are going to be here in Europe and play for a good month, right? It's going to be
Yeah. 3.5 weeks.
3 weeks and 2 days.
3 weeks,
Not
2
that
days.
I'm exactly counting.
It's exactly. It's funny how you exactly know how many days.
I know.
How is touring for you? I mean, it's obviously not the first time you're on tour, but you're one of those few bands that actually have like a super strong and crazy impressive online presence. Like, you could probably maybe get away without touring. Is it like a highlight, or is it just something that is a part of the story?
Touring is just getting to hang out with the boys.
Yeah.
Every day.
Gotcha.
Every day is hanging out with the boys. I think when we first started, it was a lot more difficult because it was very much a DIY operation.
Yeah.
And these days we're blessed enough to be able to, have such a wonderful team around us that, kind of makes the world go round for us.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, it's pretty awesome. But also, because we have less things to worry about, we have more mental capacity to hang out with the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And make sure that we rock and roll and kick butt. Can I say ass?
You can say whatever you want.
Kick ass.
You be you.
On stage.
Yeah. That's so cool. It's before we get into other stuff and songwriting and everything, and before I forget it, we have to say thank you to Fishman, Ken, Susie, and the whole crew who helped to pull this off and get the guys over here.
I think it was like in 2020 or something when we started designing these things. So it's
nice.
The time just bleeds into each other. I know nothing about anything.
Yeah. And in case anyone's not familiar with the Fluence pickups, it's like high-tech stuff. It's like a normal pickup is a couple of metal pole pieces, 2 magnet bars, and some copper wire around it. These things are like circuit boards stacked on top of each other, which means that you can literally tell which frequency you want to have more or less of. It's crazy.
It's like aerospace technology or something.
It's not real.
They have robots at the factory, if that puts it into perspective, what they're doing over there.
Did those like tonal possibilities and new sounds and everything change anything about like the tones that inspire you, or do you completely ignore tone in that phase when you're just noodling and coming up with ideas?
Honestly,
is that a part?
I kind of just adapt to things. So when I got these, I had like I have 3 new voicings now. So now I can do 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3 here, and 1, 2, 3 here. So I have 9 tones that I can mess around with, and like probably stuff that I would never really do before. I kind of would just mess around with tones and go through the presets on a thing or something like that, and be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that I could do that sound.
For me, I do a lot of practicing just unplugged.
Electric, acoustic?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I just need to know that like I'm hitting the note and it sounds good that way.
Yeah.
And so the beautiful part about this is that like some of these positions, like this one in particular, we kind of base this off of like a nylon guitar, right? But it's like clearly an electric guitar, right?
Yeah.
But because we base it off of a nylon guitar, it kind of gives me like an amplified version of the unpluggedness. Lots of sparkle to it, and just the note itself. So
what I wanted to ask, like you guys were here in 2019, I
Oh
think.
my God, yeah. I remember that.
You remember this crazy event, this Thomann Gearhead University with all the like artists and YouTubers and brands and crazy madness, huge event. And I remember you guys saying like, whenever you write, you usually like start off with like a cool percussive something, like a groove or something gets you going, and then you sort of orchestrate melodies and the whole thing around that first thing. Is it like really a thing, or did it change? Is it still the same, or is there no concept whatsoever?
I think there's been a lot of like figuring it out from every angle.
Okay.
Whether it's like, you know, let's say like one of us starts a riff and the other one like adds guitars and then we add a beat to it, or we start with the beat first and then do guitars, or we start with like the vocals if like it's a vocal feature, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
like compose around it, or you know, just straight from scratch, or doing the how to make a riff approach where you're doing the chords on the left hand and the melody on the right hand and then playing all the notes at once, or just any combination thereof.
Wow, okay,
It's
so
lots of
whatever.
it's however
whatever.
any angle that you can approach the song at, like it's because it's almost like a puzzle,
Yeah.
you know, where like you like have as much momentum as you can, and then you hit kind of a wall. I think everybody knows what wall I'm talking about. Like you can only go till 5 a.m, however many times, you know what I mean, before it's like, oh, I don't really know what to do. And then you kind of have to look at it from a new perspective
Yeah,
to figure out to take it to the finish line. So
My favorite ones are when we have the same, what is it called? We have the same, like, you know, basis or starter thing.
oh yeah, and then take it two different
Yeah, like,
directions.
all right, I'm going to do my thing and you do your thing on it. And then we come together and we're like, wow, that's, these are nowhere near
And
like
then we
each
have
other.
to
Awesome.
do some sort of beat switch to make it like
Yeah.
part of the same song.
It doesn't always happen. And a
Yeah.
lot of those stay in the vault.
Yeah.
But those
Oh,
are fun
that's
ones.
amazing. It's almost like a songwriting adventure. It's like a
Very much
who
is.
the
It is
like
hell
an
knows what
adventure.
happens now. And
It's like open world
Open world
songwriting.
songwriting. Yeah, dude. I do love the challenge of doing it from every direction, though.
It's a lot of like you do this and then you build around it and then you go like that and then you go to different directions and bring it back together, and lots of like interweaving, like say the vocals here, just like the guitars will go like this.
Yeah,
And
around
then
it.
meet in the middle, you know, like so, you know, it's a lot of almost like visualizing the sound, you know.
Yeah. Every song has a color, too. Like, what color is Neurotica for you?
That one is iridescent.
Iridescent?
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
very iridescent to me.
I always got yellow from that one for some reason.
I know, like my biggest nightmare is whenever I have like a section or a part or a melody or whatever, and I love it so much that I don't want to ruin it with something that follows that part that's not
Then you just
worthy of it.
repeat that thing the whole time.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Just put it on
that's how
loop.
charts work usually. I mean, it works.
Yeah.
But that's like the worst moment where you have to stop and get in a different mindset. Maybe wait a day or wait a week, and then just don't force it, I guess.
Yeah, it's very much the paradox of the more you want it, the less it's going to come. And so you have to just learn to let go, kind of a surrender moment.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what the hardest thing for me to accept was is when we write something and then we'll take it to a producer or someone and they'll write something else and just completely change it. And you're like, oh, you know what? It's the same idea, but now it's like just different. And now I don't like it because I liked it the way I did it. And then I'll listen to it like a year later with like a fresh set of ears.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, ah, damn it, that was better. It was totally better the way they did it.
Yeah.
You know
didn't
that,
get it.
You know that feeling of you write something like really, really dope and you're like really in love with it, and then you know, weeks go by or a month goes by or however much time goes by and it's like lost its magic like the second once you listen to it again. Like
Yeah, dude. Something about, I call that getting older,
Yeah.
growing
Well,
up.
it's also, I think, something about like,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
the magic of hearing it for the first
Yeah.
time is like you never get that again unless, you know,
Yeah,
you got
dude.
the Men in Black fucking memory eraser or whatever.
Yeah.
I wish I had that for a couple things. For a few Meshuggah albums, just reset, listen to them for the first time
Again, for the first time, like, oh,
Yeah.
is there like a tone that you almost always go back to? Like whenever you just, you plug in something and want to test or just play a little, get warm. Is there like a setting or an amount of gain or compressor or whatever? Is there something that you always end up using or most of the time end up using?
Yeah. There actually, yeah. Like high
Is it?
gain, distortion-y stuff. Like, all right, watch this. When it makes the
There
amp
you
do
go.
that, that's when I like it. I always go to this position too, if that's specifically what you're asking, because I like the bridge pickup stuff. You know, anything that is kind of like gives me like
Yeah.
that harmonic, if I could just scrape it like that,
Yeah.
you can get that sound out of it. I love that. For some reason, I can just
Just relax.
I can
When that's
yeah,
going.
I can exactly. I can relax. I can kind of just be a little more expressive that way. If I can get the harmonics in there,
Yeah.
and then you hear notes that you might not think would make sense, and then sometimes you can kind of like. I forgot what song I did this with, but there was one song that I think we ended up putting on one of the albums that I remember I hit like a harmonic somewhere that was weird. And I remember thinking to myself, that's kind of cool. I should put that on a synth somewhere and bring out those notes more. And it totally just shifted like it gave me like a new perspective of
That's awesome.
hearing
Yeah.
the song. So yeah, I don't know, not to ramble too far
No.
into that, but that's an example of taking yourself out of the box, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of like to just strip it back to the nothingness because if I can, you know, make it sound good, like with nothing, then it'll probably sound cool with everything.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like what I like to do is like I said, make it sound good with just like even a dry tone,
Okay.
like just the dry signal.
Whoa.
Right, and then you know the beauty of plugins. Shout out Neural DSP, Archetype to Henson. If you don't have it, pick it up.
Yes.
You know, you can just cycle through the presets
Yeah.
of the thing and hear it like, oh, I didn't know it would sound like that with this much gain.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, it's got like these cool artifacts when you like, you know, like pitch it in this way.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I've definitely learned to love artifacts from like anything that makes the guitar sound fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm super about it because and especially to like blend between it sounding fucked up and going back to like it being its nothingness.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of gives it like a cool morphing of the audio.
Wow.
Makes sense.
I think I've never ever seen you guys playing pedals and amps. Would you ever intentionally choose like a tube amp? If yes, is there any specific one? And if yes, for what kind of tone? Is it more for like a high gain madness or a certain type of clean tone or anything between?
We've been playing Marshall for like how long now? Over a year?
Over a year,
Yeah.
yeah. And we have gravitated specifically towards the JCM 800.
I feel like a lot of people don't know that like the pink amp on my plugin is based off of the JCM 800.
800.
Yeah, and so
Nice.
now we just play those, and there's nothing quite like the warmth of a tube amp, right? Even though like we're still like using like the modelers, like through the power section or
Yeah,
whatever, it
yeah.
just the way it pushes air
Yeah.
is just another feeling entirely.
You have that on stage, right? So that's like
Yeah.
also kind of a monitor. Even you probably use in-ears, but it's like to move air, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
I would say it's a big monitor, you know, because we're fucking blasting
Yeah.
this.
Nice. Okay.
And
Good to
we
hear.
have like the massive stacks, so like
Yeah.
we love that wall of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried not doing stage sound for a while, and we are like, dude, it doesn't feel right. when
Yeah,
we do stage
there's no
sound.
girth to it.
And
There's no girth, and I don't know about you guys. I think you do this, but I like. Well, you guys just like only do one ear, right?
No, I do both.
do
ear. I
both
tried
now?
doing the one ear thing, and
Gobert I think he just does one ear.
Yeah.
I like pull him out every now and then, like
Okay.
halfway.
Yeah.
So I can kind of like
get the
hear you
environment.
guys and everything else, because my ear mix is usually just like, you know, the tracks. I mean, I have you guys in it, but it's like ones and zeros versus like the
Yeah,
feel of the
there's no
room.
air. It's like very direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the 800s either, but there's like we've tried push. I think we're doing the effects loop, right? Yeah, we do the effects loop.
So use the power
With the
amp
modelers,
of
yeah.
that. Yeah, the huge ass transformer and the power tubes.
Yeah, there's something about specifically that one, the JCM 800, that just feels really good.
Yeah.
We've tried other ones and didn't feel that good.
I think I'd love to, like, let's take away the modelers for a second. Start with the JCM 800, right? Just as the base. And then, like, this whole setup is super cool. If we could get the people that make this cool pedal board to add just one more section of 2 buttons, up, down.
Yeah.
So that they're just presets that
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
go through.
yeah.
So it's like being, like, just the real plugin.
Yeah.
An analog plugin.
Yeah,
And what
yeah,
it does, each time you hit up or down, it just randomizes settings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, you know, you can, and I want another button for favoriting.
I gotcha.
So then it
That's
should
a
be,
good ass idea.
right? And then you can have analog plugin.
Yeah, and like endless combinations of stuff.
But I
whatever
want
you
it, like, when I hit it, I want to see all the knobs turn physically.
Yeah. Oh,
And then
okay.
same on the
Alright.
amp. You know what I mean? So it
Actually-
just randomizes settings and
yeah.
like they're all controlled electronically.
Yeah.
And it's just instant.
That's
I
kind
feel
of
like
cool.
as we film this video and let's say this part ever makes it out into the world, if you're a programmer and you're watching this, please hit us up. We're trying to make this a reality. How cool would it be if we could have analog plugins, right?
Dude.
So,
Dude, you know, Mike sent us like the TS9 and the T808.
overdrive.
all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And I tried that exactly. I just plugged it straight into the fucking amp, the input of the amp, and
Is that the tube
it's pretty
screamer?
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tube screamer.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just
Obviously not the
808s.
old school one.
Yeah,
but
these are reissues, but they're
yeah, they're
pretty much
reissue,
the
but
same
they're
thing.
yeah. Are they pretty much the same thing, or are they?
It depends on how nerdy you want to be. Because if
That's true. Yeah,
if you
yes.
really pick every frequency apart, then they're not exactly the same. Like they don't sound exactly
Yeah.
the same. But it comes down to value of every little resistor and like every pot
Oh,
value.
okay.
And what,
Now,
so
now we're getting into
I feel like
resistors, dude.
super
back then
deep,
too, they probably did a lot more hand wiring
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. And
yeah. Now it's all like, robot assembled.
Yeah.
it's almost
Things
like
change, but-
your older Digitech Whammy thing, like in how
Oh,
it gives
yeah.
like the artifacts
Yeah.
versus the new one, like is like more
That one
clean.
kicks ass, by the way.
The old one or the new one?
the WH1.
Oh, nice.
I got the
Okay.
WH1, and it fucking like when you use it like 2 octave up, it sounds like shit, and it's awesome. When I say sounds like shit, I mean that in a good way.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
that means. It sounds like it fucks it up nice and good,
Good.
gritty. And the new one is like they kind of like it retains the pitch better, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Much more
cool to
precise,
have
I guess.
access to both. Yeah.
While we're talking about tone and modeling and pedals and everything, I've heard from you guys, whenever that was, that you had a rough time with your first, like, I guess XFX it was? Like something like you really wanted to be awesome and then it was not very awesome and you couldn't figure it out.
Well, that's user error, I think.
Could be.
We started
yeah, it's
from
definitely-
because we're children, like 15, 16, getting Pod Farm, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
like Pod Farm
Good old, yeah.
is very, I'd say it's pretty user friendly, right? Like
yeah,
you get
honestly,
a
I
little.
still use it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it goes
To be
hard.
honest.
It goes hard.
Yeah.
But going from Pod Farm to the Axe-FX, I think it was the Axe-FX Ultra. You can like change the tubes of the amp, and there's something called. I always say this. There's something called sag.
Yeah.
I've never heard it in my life, but I know what it is because of the Axe-FX, right?
Yeah,
And like it's just so many details.
Yeah.
That you can change that it's almost like
It's
you
shocking.
really need to know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's also the wonderful part about the Axe-FX is that you can just turn the knob and go through all the presets.
Yeah.
And so many of our songs, like Goat, for example, was recorded on, I think it was preset 41, but it was just called Boutique.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all it is. It's
Right,
just that tone is just the preset, because sometimes you just need a preset.
Yeah,
You don't need to be messing with the buttons.
Yeah.
If it sounds good, it sounds good, right?
Don't worry about it too much.
Yeah, honestly, the moral of the story is don't overthink it.
Again, user error was what happened
User
when we were trying to
error,
like
as
get
usual.
in there and
mean-
do all the details versus just like, no, they already did that for us. That's why they made presets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nowadays, especially in like products like that, you have actual good presets. It's not just
Yes.
like something to we need something for the delay, so let's crank everything until it's like unusable just to show it off.
Oh,
It's like no, they
Yeah.
make like actual usable stuff that inspire you to
I
tweak it or
remember
not. Yeah.
prior to Pod Farm, I was my first digital modeler was like I think it was like a Behringer V amp or something. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, that was kind of like
Different times.
Yeah, it was different eras like of technology where like clearly there was like a massive jump.
Was that the blue one? Like looked like a
it was like
liver
a
or something,
bean
weird
or something.
thing. Yeah.
And then before
Man.
that, I was
Yeah.
using I think my first amp was like my first combo amp was like a Vox Valvetronics, like just like a really tiny one, and they've got like all the different from clockwise, all the different like gains. you know,
like
that you
amp
can start
styles
with.
or gain
Yeah,
amount.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, Line 6 Spider 2.
Oh yeah.
Insane mode, baby.
Dude, the
Insane.
Spider
The last
4,
one,
yeah, insane mode.
Insane. It was insane. For sure. Do you have like any, I don't know, tips or help for whoever starts to get into like proper modelers, like any of the high-end ones, the Quad Cortex, the Helix, the whatever it is? Like, is there anything that you now know and you hope, like, really wanted to know back then and didn't? Like, do you put
yes.
low cut on everything immediately because it's too boomy otherwise, or is there like a trick with a compressor that you use or not use, or amounts of gain or stacking stuff inside? Is there anything?
Dude,
I have a lot. I've learned so much about these fucking amp simulator effects processor things, and I still know so little.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, that's the part. I feel like
It's so
black
fucking
hole.
much.
it's very much like just stop trying so hard.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
like I remember when I was younger, when we were like really like, oh, what's the difference between the Pod Farm and the Axe-FX? It's like, oh, well, this one's
dude.
$200 and this one's $2,000. So clearly this one has to be like insane.
10 times
Yeah,
better.
10 times
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Exactly. Right. That was like the logic. And then you do the thing and realize that like, oh, well, it's all about whoever's behind the product, not the product itself. Right.
Because we were used to using the Pod Farm, so we were good with it.
Yeah, and then it becomes a don't overthink it kind of thing, because it's I didn't know to trust my ear back then, and that's like I didn't understand what makes a good mix, what makes a good guitar tone, what is sonically pleasing. I didn't really get it until like so many years of listening to music happened, where I was able to be like, oh, this sounds so much like just noticeably different than this or whatever, and then it's just whatever you gravitate towards. And then I think too, realizing that like, sound is subjective to like
Oh, man.
a lot of people, right? And
It's
so
crazy,
what
yeah.
sounds like dog shit to you might sound like incredible
The
to
best
somebody
one,
else,
yeah.
right? And so I think it's just all about the intention behind it of like, this is real and I fuck with this and people can sense that
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
like, this is what I think sounds good and what I think you all are gonna like.
Yeah,
Like it's like a making it because you want to versus making it because you think someone else is gonna like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That usually doesn't end up.
Yeah,
well,
exactly. Like
right?
just do the thing that you know is right.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd say do the thing that feels good
Yes.
too. Like,
and that's how you know it's right, is because
honestly,
it feels good.
yeah, if it feels good, then that's fine.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
let the mixing engineer handle the rest.
Yeah, exactly,
But
yeah.
I would also say it kind of doesn't really matter that much what it sounds like. It just, because if it feels good, you're going to fucking perform the best. But if you want a little more of a technical answer, going back to the advice to someone, if you have an Axe FX or a Quad Cortex or a plugin and you're like, what the fuck? This
Yeah.
sounds so much different. I don't know what to do with it. I would say the presets are presets for a reason. And they sounded good to someone somewhere, whether it was because they were plugging it through an amp or what. So, I mean, some of those presets are specifically designed to go through an amp.
Yeah.
And some are specifically designed to mock an amp.
Yeah.
And your speakers are going to sound different. Like your studio monitors are going to sound different than an amp. Your studio monitors are going to sound different than someone else's studio monitors. Your room is going to sound different than someone else's room. So
Moral
just
of
do
the
it
story
feels
is you gotta
good.
mix on the iPhone.
Yeah.
You have to
Dude.
mix 4 iPhone speakers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If
It's sad
it
but true,
sounds
man.
good on
Yeah.
the iPhone speakers, then that's,
Yeah.
Did you know some people listen to music like that?
Yeah.
They'll just like play it off their
I know.
phone and be like,
I mean,
this is my channel.
You go around town
honestly,
and like teenagers just hang around with like
Yeah.
iPhones maxed out. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm old, but I can't fucking do that.
It
I can't
just-
stand that.
Get with the times, buddy.
Get with the
I mean, it's
time.
fine if you scroll through, Instagram and just check out someone's post. Like, yeah, that's cool, and you
Oh,
can
yeah,
kind of tell
sure.
that it sounds cool too, even though it's just a tiny speaker.
Yeah, if
but
you're
it's-
making a TikTok or something, yeah, just
but it's like for music.
make sure it sounds good on the phone. 'cause
Dude, it's almost
matter.
like people prefer it to like, if making the audio for TikTok, right, is like blowing it out. Especially if 808s are involved.
So you can hear
because people
everything.
want to feel like they're in the
thing's
room and like
vibrating almost in the hand.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. So just like have a blown out version so
Yeah.
that like it goes on the phone speaker.
One of the first things that I realized back at the beginning with modelers is exactly you said that like there are some presets and some settings that are meant to be played line, like you just plug it into your monitors or interface or whatever, and then there are some where the cap sim is off, or maybe the whole master setting is that the cap sim is off, and then if you buy something and it sounds like a box of bees, that's probably
of bees.
because there's something on the master level. That's the first thing that I had painfully learned. And the second thing was obviously the cab is like the most radical difference. Like if there's something that I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, maybe go back to the first one and just try different cab
cab,
simulations.
dude.
And if
Yeah.
it does IRs, maybe grab a few, download them and put them on there. It's like the most
That's
in
good
your
advice,
face difference.
actually. Okay,
It's,
if you find a cab that you like on one of those, stick with it for a while and then then scroll through the amps
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff,
that's it,
because then you'll kind of that's a good one. That's a good one too.
It's
I know, but you don't like, I don't know. Also, just fuck around with it.
Yeah.
Like it took us however many years we've been doing this to get
Dude.
the sounds we have.
There is nothing more disappointing than so before we upgraded from Pod Farm to the Axe FX, which by the way, the story there is that Scott and I had saved up all summer and found this one on eBay that was going for lower than the price of the Ultra at the time. I think we got it for $1,200 then.
Something like that.
We had saved up all summer and we were $10 short, and we went into our cars that day and picked up every fucking quarter and yeah, coin in the seat, and like took it to the bank, and like, you know, right before they closed, and then like made the bid right before it ended. We won the bid, and it was like the most insane thing, right? But before that happened, we were on the pod farm, and we were thinking like, you know, everybody's like, wow, the Axe-Fx is so incredible. Like, and we just thought because it was Axe-Fx, it's going to sound incredible. And I remember we paid like $200 to this one like local producer that like had an Axe-Fx before everyone else. And we were like, dude, we'll pay you fucking $200 to reamp our guitars on it. Thinking like, you know, there's going to be a night and day difference. And then when it came back, he sent it back, and it was worse than like what we had.
It sounded like shit.
Right, because, you know, again, like
we played it on a fucking tone that felt good, and then we ran it through something that was like, I don't know, it didn't have enough gain. It wasn't pushing the sustain through.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And so that was a huge letdown to realize like, oh, like we're gonna have to be a lot more hands-on with that.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
We just lost $200.
Which was like, that was
For
like,
us?
we were like, oh no, what have we done?
Oh no. Oh yeah.
What are we gonna do now?
Yeah,
I'm hungry.
dude.
Yeah, I mean that's tough, but those are, I guess, moments where you just learn more than without that loss.
Because you know what?
Okay,
I would pay that.
I will not go there
again.
It was a $200 lesson.
Yeah, dude.
I mean?
Pretty much.
Coming back to this, what you said, like gear is not what will make you sound different or better. It's pretty much the player, how you play, what you play, what you connect with, what kind of sound. The guys said down here, we don't have any modelers now set up because they have their whole rig built up in another studio next to us, and we just plugged in our regular stuff that our regular viewers know how we play our boomer bands and everything. We're like more like low gain bluesy kind of normal players. The guys sat down, and after a minute, it's like, yeah, I feel cool. And they don't sound anything like Guillaume and I. It's that's why people say, like, you know, the tone is in the hands, which sounds stupid. It's the person that makes that sound better or worse or fitting or just terrible. It's super interesting.
Yeah, dude.
What are your, just to wrap everything up, what are your plans after this tour? You go back, writing sessions, simple shows, like one-offs, or
one more show in Mexico. Yeah.
Cool. And then after that, it's time to write,
it's album mode. We're so excited to just like really, you know, with us, there's two modes. There's tour mode, which is like making sure that all of these riffs are like played, being able to be played. Keeping up the chops. Which takes up a lot of like mental RAM. You know what I mean? And then there's album mode, which is forget everything my hands have ever learned and let's start fresh. You know? So that's my favorite part of the whole thing. So I can't wait to get there. And,
so cool. Have a lot of fun with it, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
You guys take it easy. See you down there in the comments. If you have any questions, anything you want to share, go ahead, and bye-bye.